welcome, Bem-vindo to episode 12 of Yarn Stories with Olivia, ou Contos com Olivia. This is my channel here on YouTube where I talk about my love of knitting and crochet and yarn consumption. I am a lifetime yarn crafter and an equal opportunity yarn consumer, which is going to be a topic in today's episode. If you're new to me, welcome in. If you are a returning viewer, thank you for joining me again. For those of you who may be new, you can find me as Olivia30 on Ravelry, where I do log all of my makes, or as Olivia30M on Instagram, where I can be pretty active with my works in progress, my finished objects, and some of my day-to-day life things will be on that page. And in today's episode, we will be talking about some finished socks, some half finished knitted socks, some crochet projects that I've been working on quick repetition, some future knitting plans, some more yarny goodness. I did go to New England Fiber Festival, and today if there's time, I'm going to show you some of my latest thrift finds, as well as I will have some book recommendations for you. Yes, it's been a while since I've done that, isn't it? It's been a while since I've brought some books from work to show you. And the new shipment of books came in this week, and I realized it's been a while since I've shown you what we've gotten in. For those of you who are new, I am a librarian, and I do have a little stash of books here somewhere, but most of my knitting books I have them at the library, so I tend to not buy the books. So in keeping with the librarian theme, let's start with something from the archives, which is something that I haven't done in a while. And because the topic of today's episode is equal opportunity yarn consumption, this is a good example to show you. So I am wearing a cardigan that I made in July of 2021. It is the first cardigan I have knit for myself. It is the Look Squirrel cardigan by Casapinka, and I used acrylic yarn. Yes, before I work on projects that will be done with a much more expensive yarn, I like to test them out with acrylic, see how it works, and if I understand how the pattern works, then I'll move on to something a little bit more wool based. But in this case, with this yarn, I really liked how it knit up. I liked how it felt, and so I continued with the project, and within 30 days, I finished it in August of 21. I want to say it took me less than a month to work on this. Not that this was the only thing I was working on. I was working on other things, but I was able to get this finished. And I have worn this so much. It is, I call it the Mountain View cardigan because I used Yarn Bee Sweet Divinity Mountain View yarn. This is a 100% acrylic yarn. It is 243 yards. I can't remember how many I used to make it, but it knit up really nicely. I like the colors that were in it, the grays or the browns, and it just knit really, really well. And it's something that I knew that I would be able to wash and put in the dryer and not have to worry about it shrinking. I did it to pattern. I did have gauge with this yarn. That was, it is a DK yarn. I did get gauge with it. I did use a size 6mm, US 6, 4mm needle to make it. And I'll just show you, it is, the pattern up here is really, really pretty. I chose to not do a button. I chose to buy one of these clips I found these at Joann's, so that I could keep the cardigan attached here, but it is, there is no button bands on it. And it has this feature too on the sleeve, this little pattern. It is, as you can see, even though it was one of my first knitted garments, I had it to size. It's perfect on my arms. The length is great. for me, and I have worn this so many times, and it is one of those comfort cardigans for me. I wear it with my short sleeve sundresses, and yeah, it's really, really comfortable. So I thought I'd wear it today, since the topic of today is going to be mostly about acrylic yarn. Not that I haven't stopped buying other yarn, but I felt like this was a good example to show if you're on a budget and you want to try making a cardigan in DK weight, there are options of yarn out there. Acrylic has come a long way from the acrylic I used in the 80s in making blankets. It's not, a lot of the yarn is not a plasticky yarn. And the acrylic is also a great yarn for lots of wear and wash. And so it depends on what it is that you're planning to make, or it's also something for great use if you're going to be gifting, because you know that when you gift it to someone, you don't have to give it to them with a lot of care and instruction. And in the case of something like this, if this had been done with wool, if I had gifted this to someone, who knows how it would have ended up. I do plan to still make this cardigan again with a different DK yarn. I got tons of yarn that I can use, but for now, this is my cozy cardigan. I wear to work. I do wear it around the house. And when it starts to get too frayed, although it doesn't really have too much pilling from the amount of use that I've had on it, I'll end up putting it in the camper, and I can use this as a sweater for when we go camping, because then if we sit by the fire, I can just, you know, it gets that smoky smell. I can just throw it in the washing machine and dryer and put it back in the dry in the camper. So look, Squirrel cardigan by Casapinka. It was a great pattern, by the way. I would recommend this pattern. And yeah, probably will do another one again, but it's one of those things that I've got so many projects in mind. Eventually I'll get to it. So that is my archive piece. So we're starting with that one today. So let's move on to the next one. New to the collection. Last episode, I talked about the socks that I was knitting with, that I had knit while I was at Rhinebeck on the Hill. I talked about this sock, which is the Patons Croy sock, which is Patons Croy. It is a yarn that I use quite often for socks for my son, because he is a heavy-duty sock wearer, and he really likes these socks. He wears these with his shoes, with his sneakers, with his boots, and he throws them in the washing machine and dryer, and nothing happens to them. They come out exactly the same way. They haven't shrunk, and he likes the thickness of this yarn. It is a heavy-duty yarn for socks. So I had finished one, and I was about to start another one, and I did. I have the second one finished. As I mentioned in the last episode, I don't block them. I haven't yet. I probably will block them now, because there is a reason for me showing you these two socks here on this episode today. I talked about these possibly going into the gift box if my son had decided that they had a little bit too much pink for him. Although he's already seen them and he's already wanting them, but he's not going to get them. And they're not going to go in the gift box. There's a purpose for these socks, but I wanted to just show you how I used every inch of the yarn. The reason why these are 8.5 9s is because I wanted to use the whole ball of yarn. And this is what I have left over from sock number 2 and what I had left over from sock number 1. I had a little bit more on that one. I don't know. I must have cut some out for the yarn to match. And so I'm feeling really great that I finished these. I feel great that I got them to match completely. Yes, I am one of those people. I do like to make my socks and the colors match. The only ones that I don't care if they don't match is when I'm making for me, because I'll make myself the scrappy socks with whatever's left over. So for me, they're like scrappy quilted socks. They're just, they don't, no rhyme or reason to the colors I use. But when it's for a gift, or even if it was my son that's going to wear them, he likes to show them off at work. I like to make sure that they match. So yeah, so that's a win-win, because this little bit of fluff of yarn will go into the stuffing bag. Now, why these are special now is, and I'll talk a little bit here about this new campaign that I think some of you may have heard about and which I want to participate in. I had heard of it when I was in Rhinebeck. I had heard Kevin and Ray of Needles at the Ready talk about it. I thought, yeah, I want to join in on it. And when I recorded the last episode, it wasn't something that was ringing a bell, but after I watched the episode, I caught up with Kevin and Ray's episode, and I said, yeah, of course, why not? Instead of it going into the gift box, why not make this a pair of socks that I can send in for the campaign, Socks for Sam? For those of you who may not have heard, Socks for Sam is a campaign to bring awareness to white matter disease. It's on Instagram. If you go on Instagram, there is also a website. If you look for Socks for Sam on Instagram, there's a page there. All the details are on there. Sam is a young boy who loves to wear mismatched socks, and one of his teachers or some of his teachers are putting together this campaign to help raise awareness of the disease that he's living with. And it's knit a sock, send it in, knit a pair of socks, send it in for the raffle they're going to be having, or join in on the Cowl, the knit along that they're going to be hosting from December of 2024 to January of 2025, 2 months of sock knitting. You can knit a pair of socks and donate for the raffle, or knit one sock and send it in where they will match them up with another sock and also sell them for the raffle. It is, yes, send the socks to, if you go to the website, Socks for Sam, there's going to be information there where you can send your socks in. If you want to participate on Instagram, it is hashtag Socks for Sam. Their page on Instagram is Knit Socks for Sam. And the Cowl is, I just said that, December 24th to January 2025. So this pair I'm going to be sending in for the raffle. I do have a lot of other single skeins of Croy that I'm not sure. I thought I would just match them up with another Croy yarn and make a pair of socks. I think I'll be making some individual socks. Same length, everything, but they'll be different colors, because these will, again, because of their durability, this yarn, the way this yarn washes so well, you know, whoever is the person who ends with these, they'll be having these socks for a while and remember Sam. So that's my finished objects for this episode. What is my half-finished object? Well, my half-finished object is the socks for Gary's dad. Here's the sock that I talked about in the last episode that I was going to be doing for my husband, who has become an aficionado of hand knit socks and needs another pair because he's worn through a pair, is got two now that he has on heavy rotation that I think soon will need a little TLC as well. So I got to get these out to him soon. The Gary socks, Gary, because, you know, the little color up at the top here matches our little Gary's nose. So little Gary, who came home with me from the shelter one day and has completely stolen our hearts. And so pop a color here, the heel and gusset in the same color, and the toe. Last episode I talked about what the yarn was. Let me see if I can get it for you. This is the sorry, I thought I had it. Yes, I do have it here. It is the Road Trip sock yarn. And this is the inspiration for the dye of this yarn. It's his name was Morty. He's a shelter cat. He was the most similar to our Gary in terms of the yarn. Our Gary has a little bit more brown than what is in this yarn, but it was close enough. I thought this would make for a good pair of socks for Dad. And for this, I am using, so here's what the yarn looks like. I'm keeping it in this bag that I showed you last time, through So Many Stitches, which is handmade by my friend Deb, who's a local project bag maker. She sells these at craft shows. So here's the yarn caked up. I am pairing it with the leftover, well, for the pop of color and for the heel, I'm using what's left over or what I'm repurposing from the Croy socks. The last episode, you will have heard that I had originally started the socks with this yarn, but it didn't match in weight to the Croy and I didn't like how it felt. So I'm repurposing the cuff for here and for the heel flap. So this is going to go. Here's the second one. I have the pop of color done. I am about to do the heel flap. And then for the gusset, I am using this yarn doubled. It is Garthenor Organic Snowdonia. I picked this up at Rhinebeck. I was told this was a good yarn for socks, for heel and toes. And it is a little bit toothier. It's not as soft, but it's also, when I knit, it felt very, very, very thin. For the socks that I make, I use a size 2, US 2, 275 millimeter on a 32-inch cable. I use Knit.Purl needles. I learned how to knit socks with Knit.Purl needle, and it's what I'm comfortable with. I do have lots of other needles, but I find that these work great. I love how easily the yarn travels on the needles. So in knitting with these 2.75, I found that it was too thin of a heel. So what I did on here, so for the gusset, I did the soft merino wool yarn that's here, which is what I'm going to use for that one. But in the heel turn, I used 2 strands of the Garthenor, because this is what he wears through the fastest, is this right here at his heel. And I thought if I doubled it up, hopefully it'll last a little longer. And it didn't make a difference in the feel from the double of the yarn here going back to the actual yarn. So you shouldn't feel the difference on his foot. And I did the same thing for the toe. I doubled up on the Garthenor so that I should just take this off. It'd probably be easier to show you. So that the Garthenor is nice and solid there too. It was way too, I could see through before. It probably would have worked better with a size 1 needle. But since I have his all 2s, that was the choice I made to go that way. So I think it worked out really well. He has tried it on. They fit him. So he's anxiously waiting for this one, which probably get it later on. I mean, my plan is today to finish working on that sock. So this is a simple 3x1 pattern sock. No fancy stitch count. It's a 1x1 rib, 3x1 for 50 rounds. Then the decrease, and then it's 6 for his foot. It's 60 rounds. Then the toe. So that is the half finished object. I'm gonna put this back in here. Move it out of my way here so I can stay organized. I do have an outline today that I'm going to try to follow. We'll see how that goes, right? Okay. So those are my finished objects. I have, what should I go? All right, we'll talk about the crochet element and why I have just those objects on the go or finished. I haven't really picked up anything else. None of my whips in progress, they have been on a back burner. I've mentioned this before, where I do craft shows, local craft shows as fundraisers for the high schools, and that has started. So I've been on rotation of crocheting items to sell at the craft shows. One of the most popular makes that I have along with the Ollie hats is this, I'll show it to you. This is what I've been on the crochet repeat. Take two. These are my cowl neck ponchos. This is a pattern. It's a free pattern on the Red Heart site. This is what they look like. And I'll insert a picture. I switched where I was sitting a minute ago. So I'll insert a picture of, and I think I got us a little messed up here. Sorry about that. I have to step away from my recording for a second because somebody let himself into the door. That would be Gary, who has free roaming access to the house. He came looking for me. I'd left him downstairs sleeping. And he's like, where did you go? He's already spent most of the morning on my lap. I did post it on Instagram. He had me trapped on the couch for a while as I was knitting on the sock. And yeah, he came to find me. But when he sees me talking to my phone, he's pretty good. He goes, I've got a chair, a reading chair over here. He's on the reading chair now looking at me. Okay, where was I? Sorry about that. Okay, so the cowl neck poncho. The cowl neck poncho is a free pattern on the Red Heart site. This is what it looks like. So this is something that in 2017, I think was the first time I made one of these. Yeah, it was 2017. Of course it was. 2017, we went to Ireland and I wanted to take something with me that I could wear over a sweater or a jacket. We went in September. I wasn't sure how the weather was going to be. And I figured this kind of poncho over a jacket would work well. So the first one that I made, which I still have all these years later, here's a picture of me wearing it at the Cliffs of Moher. Here is my cranberry one. My cranberry one, which is over 7 years old, which has been worn many, many times. I do keep it at work during the spring because when the AC is on, or right before they turn on the heat and it's still cold. So this has had a lot of mileage. This one was done exactly to pattern, which again, it's a free pattern. I'll link it below. And I used, I don't have any other cranberry here at home, but I'll show you what yarn I used. I used Premier puzzle yarn. This is a bulky 5, 100% acrylic, super, super soft, very squishy soft, and is a bulky 5, but it's not really all that bulky. I'm not a fan of crocheting with bulky yarn, but this yarn is really easy to crochet. For me, as I said, I went to pattern. Look at, 7 years later, it's still looking pretty decent. And what happened was I made that one in the cranberry, and I felt that it was really big to wear over my jackets and sweaters. So I made one a little smaller in the black and white, which is what this one is. This one has had just about as much wear too, but as you can see, this one's a little smaller. I made this one, and I'll put the picture here. I wanted one to wear with my black sweater to when I went to, I'll get my verbs right. The brain sometimes thinks in Portuguese, and the verbs and the adjectives come out a little opposite. You all don't mind, right? You're gonna understand me anyway. So I wore it with a black sweater, and I liked this size a lot more. So I've tweaked the pattern a little bit to my liking. And when I got back and people saw my pictures, everybody wanted to know, oh, I'm dropping my yarn. people wanted to know, some of my friends wanted to know how I made them. Could I make them one? Could I gift them one? So I've done, since 2017, I can't even begin to tell you how many I've made and gifted to coworkers, friends, and decided to stop making them as something that went along with the Ollie hat at the craft shows. So in about 7 years, right, 2017 to 2024, 7 years of making them, I might have made over 500 of these already. And they are a staple at my craft tables now. So here's a picture of what it looks like at my table and the colors that I offer. That's where I'm at now. I'm on a crochet, repeat, crochet, repeat, crochet. It takes me about 2.5 to 3 hours to crochet one. And I use a size L and a size M hook to make these. And it is a granny stitch pattern, which goes really fast for me. As we've talked in the last episodes, I am a very quick crocheter, having been timed at being able to do 200 double crochets in 10 minutes. So I'm able to whip these up pretty fast. It starts with half double crochets for the cowl, then the granny stitch for the rest of the body and the round. If you're looking for a nice quick pattern to use up some of your bulky yarn, highly recommend this pattern. Again, free pattern on Red Heart site. If you want to make it to the pattern so that it goes over the shoulders with a larger cowl neck, the instructions are great. If you want to shrink it down a little bit more, all I did was I just went down a hook size for the neck, making the cowl piece with a size L. And then for the body, I went with the M. I went medium, and then, 42 stitches, 42 rounds on the half double crochet. And on the granny stitch, it's a chain 2 instead of a chain 1 from the pattern, just to loosen it up a little bit more. No, I'm saying that incorrect. I think it might have. Give me a second while I look at the instructions here. It is a double crochet, right? So, I was wrong. Yeah, it's a chain 2 in between. Forget what I just said. Just follow the pattern. It's so intuitive for me to make it already. I just sit there and I work on it and I don't even pay attention anymore. But it's the clusters are 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. And that is the story of my cowl neck poncho. Those on repeat, acrylic yarn. Craft shows have started. I have 3 more to go. Loving doing something to help benefit these schools. Yesterday, I gifted one to the organizer, actually a cranberry one, because she was admiring it. And I always donate one for the raffle. And a young girl had put in all of her tickets for the raffle so her mom could get one. And she didn't realize that the mom had already come over and bought one. So now her mom's got 2, one in brown and one in cranberry. I tend to donate the cranberry ones because they're a little bit Christmassy, but they're a little bit autumnal. I figured it's a good, it'll go with whatever outfit they're looking to use it with. So that is, I don't know if that's considered new finishes, if that's considered archives, works in progress, all of the above. So that's what those are. And let's see, looking at my outline to make sure that I'm staying on the plan here. We talked about the socks, we talked about John's socks, we talked about the socks for Sam, which I hope you get a chance to look into that if you are a sock knitter. So let's talk about my trip to New England Fiber Festival, which was 2 weeks after Rhinebeck, which we've already talked about how I was really, really good with my purchases. I did the same thing at New England Fiber Festival. I went for the socializing. I did not splurge on anything. I did buy a t-shirt, some Katrinkle sock stitch markers, and I was on my way out when I saw something, and I had to have it. And this falls under my on order or future knitting plans. But first, let me show you the t-shirt that I bought. I bought this t-shirt. Since this episode has some crochet in it, I thought it'd be appropriate to show you. I bought this, which is Hooking with Friends t-shirt. Every time I go to New England Fiber Festival, I pick up a different t-shirt. I've got several in knitting. This time I got the crochet one. Is this the right place for the hookers meeting? Is what it says. So I get to wear these when I meet up with my friends for knitting or crochet time. So I got the t-shirt, the Katrinkle sock markers, and I had seen this on my way down the aisle, on my way up this way, on my way back this way, and I was being so good. I saw it, I fell in love with it, I walked away from it. The second time I went back, there was less on the display rack. I still walked away. By the third time, there was only 3 skeins left, and I had to get it. This is what I got. This is yarn from Fiber Seed. Last year I had picked up 3 skeins of their pooling yarn as well. I've used one for a hitchhiker scarf, and I have 2 that I've yet to use up. So I really shouldn't have, but I couldn't resist. I don't own anything in this color. Oh, in this bag, I forgot. So here's what I got from Katrinkles. I got the little sock stitch markers. The, beginner of round, slip, slip, knit 2 together. I'm actually going to use them as for when I do sweater garments. So let me put those over there. So this is what I got. I could not resist this red. For those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that I do a lot of blues, grays, browns. I don't have absolutely any yarn in red. It's not a color that I like. It's not a color that I wear. I just don't have anything in my closet that's red based. I've got a lot of black. So I fell in love with this one because look at that. It is sock. It's their sprout based sock fingering, and it's Sooty Soup. And it just screamed Christmas to me. Santa's Sooty Soup. So I had to. So this is 510 yards. Yeah, 510 yards in this game. So it's a pretty good amount of yarn. And they had 3 left. So the 3 came home with me. The willpower was strong, but for that last, I shouldn't have done the last trip. I really shouldn't have. I was being so good at browsing and not buying. And I should add this in here about New England Fiber Festival, is I did run into some of my friends there, Kevin and Ray of Needles at the Ready, and Lori from Skein Yarn Shop, and my friend Gail, who is a retired librarian. We don't get to see each other at the network level anymore, but we did get to see each other at the festival. So we got to spend some time together. But one of the surprises was, as I was browsing, all of a sudden I heard somebody say, "Olivia, is that you?" And it was a little bit of a shock because I've never had anybody at a yarn festival say that, "Olivia, is that you?" Because I always go with my friends. And it was Donna, one of it's my first out in the wild fan who recognized me. And it was so great. I got to take a picture with her, and it was so great to be recognized outside of library conferencing or community events, being recognized by someone I hadn't met in person yet because she had seen the podcast. It was kind of a thrill. So it was great to meet you, Donna, in person. I'm so glad you took the time to call out and let me see you, since you're seeing me, but I don't get to see you. And the other one was, towards the end, as I was getting ready to leave and I was being so strong, I ran into Marie from Old Time Knits. Old Time Knits, pronounce the TH. She is a New Hampshire, she's outside of Concord, I believe, New Hampshire podcaster. I've been following her for a while. We've been chatting on Instagram, and it was so lovely to meet her in person. I've often heard her say on the podcast how tall she is, but once you get to see her in person, yeah, she's really tall, and I'm really short. And we had such a great laugh with each other over our differences in sizes. And Marie was so lovely. She bent down so that, you know, I didn't feel like such a little squirt. She took a picture with me. But I said to Marie, I said, well, there's only one thing left for me to do before I leave. And I'm so glad now that I went up that aisle again, or I wouldn't have bumped into Marie. And I was on my way back to Fiber Seed because I couldn't leave without getting this yarn. So bringing it back to here. So this is going to be a future knitting plan for Christmas. I am planning to use this, and I've already decided what I'm going to use it for. I am going to use it for, I've had this in mind for a while, and I think this will work really nicely because I want to do this, the Gold Wing. By Jen Steingass. It is something that I've had in mind to make for a while, and now that I'm convinced that I'm a good color work knitter, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to do the red, and I've got a white, gray tint white, which I forgot to bring up here. It's downstairs in one of my kitchen boxes. And when I say kitchen, I don't mean kitchen. I have like an eating area to the side of my kitchen where I've got some boxes, and it's in one of those. And I think that's what I'm going to pair it with it, and I'm going to make this. So that's my future knitting plans. And I hope to make this, the last craft show I'm going to do is the last weekend. It's, yeah. So there's Thanksgiving one, and then just one after that. December 6th and 7th, I think. And then I'm done with craft show stuff. And anything that I've got left over at that point will get donated to charity, or I'll take it to work. They can choose what gifts they want from it. And at that point is when I want to start cranking out my own knitting again. And this is going to be cast on. So that was my little haul, but it was, it was more than I should have spent. But I love the yarn. I love how it knits up. I'm looking forward to seeing what it comes out like in that pattern. So that is my future knitting plans. So let's talk about the library books. I told you that I was going to show you that just came in. I've brought 4 home, but I'm going to show you 2. They're the 2 that I've spent the most time looking through. The first one is the Knit California book, which has a bunch of beautiful hat patterns from different states. I'm hoping to work up on some color beanies to give as gifts for Christmas. And when I say gifts for Christmas, I'm talking about my boys and my husband and possibly my brother. I'm not gifting for multiples of people. It's too much work. There's some lovely hats in here that I'd like to give a try, because they do use some the DK weight yarn that I might have single skeins of that I would like to see used up. I really, really like this one, but I wouldn't do it with the buttons. This one is a lumberjack. It's almost time for my husband to start looking at doing the firewood closer to the house. We do have a wood burning fireplace. It's time for him to start planning, bringing the wood closer to the house. And yeah, there's some great, there's the San Francisco hat looks great. The gray whale migration, possibly that might be a thing, since whales is a thing around here, since we are close to Cape Cod and there's a lot of whale watchers nearby. Whaling is part of the history of the city we live in. The Pacific Coast Highway is really interesting to me. We did that trip a few years ago where we flew into San Francisco and we drove down to San Diego. So we did the highway coast. That was fun. That might be a good hat to give my husband, although I'll have to find a little button. It's cute, little button. That's a car. So I'm looking forward to giving this a try and seeing, after I'm done with the craft shows, doing some knitting of these fun items. The other is the Essential Knit Sweaters is another book that came in, and I went through it, and there's some real nice patterns in here. And one that I have bookmarked is the Elise sweater, a boat neck sweater with extra long cuffs. I really like that sweater. It's a tweed based yarn, and it has the split hem that I want to give a try to. It uses Lamana Como tweed, super fine merino wool and DK, but any kind of DK will work. So this is possibly a future knitting plan. So those are the two library books. Not exactly a recommendation because I haven't given it a try, but wanted to show you that while I don't talk about books too often, I do like to look through the library books that we get, and I do check out a few. I'm the person that orders most of them, since I'm the one that has some knowledge on what would make a good book to add to the collection. And when they come in, usually I'm the first one to put my hands on them after they're cataloged. In this particular case, it's been a little busy at work. I hadn't had a chance to look through the new books, and this weekend, having it be a longer weekend off, brought them home so that I could spend some time looking through them. So those are the books. What's left for us to talk about is going to be, let's see, I've got Storytime left, and I've got something new that I wanted to introduce here. So let's do really quick the Storytime, which is, I received my, I don't know if I told you guys this, when you win a ribbon from the contest at New York Sheep and Wool, I won for the second place for the crochet contest. They do send you a check. There are prizes. There really are prizes. So here are my winnings. $12. The blue ribbon is a $15 win. Obviously the red ribbon is a $12 win. I wasn't expecting it. I thought they only gave the prize to the blue ribbon winners, but I got my $12 from them. So that was sweet when I received that. The other thing that I was going to add here in Storytime is that now that I've given my friends a choice of bags that they've wanted, I now have these two left. I've got the large size and the medium size, which I'm going to set aside for a future giveaway. I do plan to do a giveaway when I reach the 1,000 subscriber, and I have a skein of yarn that I'll have to dig out from one of these boxes. It's from my local yarn shop. I had picked up a skein of yarn this summer so that I could use it as a prize, and so I do plan to give these away. Hopefully I don't need 4 bags with the same logo, so I'd love to share the love and share it with one of you. So that's for a future prize giveaway. And all that's left for me to talk to you about is, let me look at my notes. So in my basket for my thrift finds that I want to talk about on the podcast, I wanted to show you what one of my latest finds was. I have this is a good example. Here is some sock yarn that I found with, of course, they bundle them up. They don't know what they're bundling up. They bundled it up with some Red Heart Love in there. But it is Yorkshire Spinners Signature Sparkle is in there. It looks like some more Yorkshire Spinners. I think that's the Van Gogh colorway. Oh, the glare from my window. And some Barocco Comfort Sock. And this bag was there for $2.99. So I will bring this to the library for the projects that we do with the kids. We have a crochet club at the library, and this will be yarn that'll go into that for practice with crochet. But the sock yarn is staying at home. Oops. The other is in another bag. Oh, actually, I'll start with this. There was a whole bag still closed, unopened, of Barocco Vintage DK. 12 skeins. Was it 10? Probably 10. For $16.99. I couldn't leave this behind. I am going to divide it with my knitting friends. If I'm ever so inclined, I might be tempted to use it for a pressed flowers cardigan. I'm not sure. White is not one of my favorite yarns, although this is almost like a creamy white. So I don't know what my future knitting plans for this is, but for $16.99, completely sealed. Oh, thing, it had to come home with me. And the last one to show you is in this bag as well. I already opened it up because I wanted to see it. In this bag, there was these two cotton. It's a miracle I haven't dropped something yet. So in this bag, there was these two plus these two Malabrigos. This is the Malabrigos Wales Road Malabrigo worsted. And in Whale Road, this will make a nice hat or a nice scarf, or I'm not sure yet what it'll be. But this with the two tie-dyes, which is a weight, full weight cotton blend yarn, I believe it is. Yeah, 100% cotton. I thought these two would be great to make another one of these shawls that I made in June. And it's lightweight, and I thought that yarn is going to be perfect for this. So that is my future knitting plans for these. So these 4 items in this bag, $7.99. It's been a while since I've had this kind of a find. I think what gave it away that I might be onto finding something was when I saw the baskets that I showed you last episode, the fair trade baskets. When I saw those, I said, there's got to be some good yarn coming soon, and there was. So that's what that yarn is. And I think we've talked quite a bit already. I had planned to talk to you. Actually, I can tell you really quickly, this also is new to me. This is from a local yarn destash. A lady that lives not far from me is destashing, and she was destashing all of her Hawthorne fingering yarn. And she had tons of colors, and she was destashing them at $10 a piece. So I went and I picked them up. These are all the colors that I got from her, because these will make great socks for the husband. So that's got added on here, hence everything kind of got moved here. And I think that's all I wanted to talk to you about. So in closing, there's just one thing that I wanted to introduce that's new to this podcast. I talked about in the last episode of my tendency to knit something twice, because then if I don't do it right, I reknit it, because I'd rather have it right than wrong. I tend to reknit sleeves a couple of times. And I have a viewer of the podcast that left me a great comment, and it gave me a great idea. I want to start introducing on this podcast a section called audience participation. Part of what I do for work is always to ask if people have enjoyed a program or a lecture that we offered. What's your feedback? Let us know if we're doing something right. What is it that you'd like to see going forward? Any suggestions, recommendations? So I thought I'd incorporate that here as well. And I'm going to call it audience participation. And my first audience participation is a comment that was left by Nicole. She is at Nicole Fontaine 1720 here on YouTube. And her comment is, or her comment was, when I reknit something, to think of it as twice the fun for the same price. And I love that, because that is a thought that I've had. I know for some people having to reknit something again can be frustrating, but for me it isn't. I would just rather reknit it and have it right, so I'm happy with the end result. And it's, as a knitter, as a crocheter, a lot of what I do is to quiet my mind from the day-to-day stuff, to quiet my mind from some work responsibilities, to quiet my mind from decisions I have to make. I don't have a problem making decisions about my knitting. And so that therapy session, if it's twice for the same price, great. I've got I got my money's worth. And so Nicole, thank you for the comment. Thank you for giving me permission to use your statement on here. And if some of you would like to, be highlighted on the podcast for leaving me a comment, please consider leaving me something. Let me know what you'd like to share with me, whatever you're working on, what you're being inspired to work on, what is happening in your knitting world or your crochet world that would be of interest to other people that are watching the podcast. Let me know, and I will add it on here as well. And and I think I'll close with that. If everything I talked about will be in the comments below, I'll put the links. And if there's anything that you would like to share with me, I would love to hear it. So once again, thank you for joining me. Muito obrigada. Until next time, até a próxima. Bye.